the air on this Friday night with the new moves to try and eliminate a potential monster travel headache, with the FAA saying late today it's taking immediate action to deal with the shortage of air traffic controllers, as what could be a record number of people head for the airport this holiday season. More on what to expect as you get ready for your Thanksgiving trips. And we're watching what could be an exodus tonight as some of the country's biggest companies hit the brakes on the platform formerly known as Twitter, why even the White House now is slamming Elon Musk. Plus, a surprise move by convicted killer Alex Murdaugh back in court today, cutting a deal in his financial crimes trial. Tonight, NBC News, one-on-one with the investigators who helped put him away for murder and the key evidence they say they uncovered. Then how a missing hiker just found late today survived in the wilderness for more than a week on her own. And an NFL Sideline reporter defending herself tonight after she admitted to making up some of the stuff she said on the air. A story that has everybody talking. Her colleagues, her critics, probably your group chats, too. Plus, how climate change could drive the spread of a dangerous fungal infection. That's coming up later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we're coming on the air tonight as the FAA says it's making new moves to fix the potentially dangerous air traffic controller shortage, as what could be the busiest holiday travel season ever kicks off tonight. Check it out. Live look here at Philly International Airport, my people. Reagan International as well here in D.C., also my people. Over the next 12 days, the TSA expects to screen something like 30 million passengers. Look at this. We're seeing some decent lines already today at security checkpoints, at check-in. Listen to what some of these folks had to say.
Not fun, but you have to go through that. But a tradition, the time to be with the family, and, when you live far away, you always try to find time, to be with them.
You know, the question that's top of mind for so many of these travelers, how are the airlines going to perform? How are these airlines going to do? Especially with concerns tonight about that air traffic controller shortage. They're down something like 2,500 people all across the country, according to the Transportation Department, as we're hearing new details tonight about the FAA's plan to get that number back up. That's coming just weeks after the NTSB chair told Congress all these close calls we're seeing in the nation's skies and on runways are, in her words, a clear warning sign. All this talk of holiday travel also affected by the weather, of course. And right now, you've got a new storm hitting the West Coast this weekend, poised to cause travel headaches for the next few days. We're going to get to meteorologist Bill Cairns for more on that. But first, I want to bring in Tom Costello, who is following all things aviation for us tonight. So start with these concerns over the air traffic controller shortage and these new moves tonight from the FAA. What are they doing, and is it going to make a difference for people traveling?
A couple of points here. First of all, you mentioned nearly 2,500 or so controllers is how many they're short right now. This is not a new problem. This has been building for 10-plus years. They've got a lot of people retiring, and then the academy was closed during COVID, and it's been slow to pick back up again with a huge backlog of people, right? Here's what the folks at the FAA said that they've now identified as immediate fixes they need to make in order to address this. They're going to try to increase the staffing. Specifically, they're going to be looking at hiring retired air traffic controllers from the military, for example. That's one example. Also, overall, they've got an aging problem with technology. They got to put more money into that. Congress has got to give them the money, and that is what we're talking about with more funding. And they need to go up and ramp up the staffing. So bringing in controllers from the military, and then they want to increase the amount of hours that the academy is actually operating. They also want to try to take grads coming out of college and universities with ATC programs and put them straight into on-the-job training, bypassing the academy. Here's the former chief of the FAA, who chaired this committee.
Staffing leads to a lot of overtime. A lot of overtime leads to a lot of fatigue. And that's why it's important to get at this underlying structural issue.
Yeah, importantly here, they are so short-staffed. Controllers are now working 6-day weeks and 10-hour days, so they want to address this immediately. They believe this has been an ongoing problem and has, in fact, been aggravating the trouble with close calls on runways and in the nation's skies. Hallie.
So, Tom, you've laid out sort of what the FAA plan is, the bigger picture here. What about the holiday travel season, right? It is Friday night. Some people are getting an early start on these travel plans. We know next week is going to be big. Talk us through the expectations here and what we think we're going to see. I think people are still, there's some folks who are probably still a little, wary after some airline meltdowns over the last year or so.
So here's what's changed. This Thanksgiving season is starting early, right? We've started talking about it today on Friday before. Why? So many people are working remotely. They're leaving early and working remotely on the front end of Thanksgiving and then staying later and working remotely on the back end. So as a result, we spread the entire Thanksgiving travel rush over a longer period, and more people are now taking advantage of that. Busiest days right there. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday if you're flying. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday. By the way, TSA PreCheck, they've now got 17 million people signed up for PreCheck. That's up 4 million from a year ago or so, and that really helps with moving you through the system faster. 10-minute wait on average for a PreCheck, 30, 45 minutes if you're in a regular line. So 30 million total passengers between now and November 28th, and the big bad day is going to be that Sunday after Thanksgiving, 2.9 million travelers. We talked to one traveler about what she is expecting.
Well, I think because of the pandemic, people want to get out. Like the past 2 years, they couldn't, you know?
Yeah. So it feels like we're on the rebound, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Feels like we're on the rebound is what she was saying. Coming out of COVID, a lot of the country feels like we've been on the rebound for a while, and they're very much traveling in full force, setting a record for travel right now. Hallie?
No kidding. Tom Costello, thank you for being all over. We're going to keep checking back in with you, I know, throughout the night. Appreciate it. I want to bring in meteorologist Bill Cairns, because when we talk about travel, we got to talk about weather, because that impacts, obviously, whether flights get off, how the roads are looking, et cetera. We got a couple of dicey spots potentially coming up this weekend, right?
Yeah, just a few this weekend, and then we'll talk more about next week coming up. But right now, everything looks great. We love green. None of the major airports have any significant delays. It's been a really good Friday to travel. So as far as the weekend go, here's Saturday. So we'll have some early rain in Boston. That's going to clear out. If you're in the Great Lakes region, prepare for temperatures to drop. It's going to be windy. But if you're driving, you should be fine. Just two hands on the steering wheel, maybe minor airport delays. This storm coming into California is going to have a little more significant impacts. Anyone flying out of LAX will have to deal with some rainy conditions, also some windy conditions all the way up through San Francisco. Then by the time we get into Sunday's forecast, that's when we're going to watch that storm heading into the Four Corner region, maybe some strong thunderstorms late in the day. That could be from Dallas to Oklahoma City to Wichita. So those airports could have even ground holds if we get those thunderstorms. No problems in the eastern half of the country. You know, overall, most people will get to their destinations this weekend despite any weather.
Bill Cairns, it's good news for people. Is it looking just as good next week? Like, I mean, Thanksgiving Day, next Sunday?
Well, Tom just said the worst two travel days are Tuesday, Wednesday. The worst weather we're going to have in the next week is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. Cool. It's not going to be like...
Love to hear it. Thanks, dude.
Great. Perfect timing, right? So if you can avoid traveling on Tuesday and Wednesday, especially Tuesday afternoon, that's when this map is frozen, Tuesday afternoon to Tuesday evening, possibly thunderstorms and heavy rain from Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, Washington, D.C., heading up into areas of the Northeast. By Wednesday morning, this exits quickly. Most of Wednesday will be better, windy and cooler, but Tuesday's the day I have my eye on. If you can avoid flying on the East Coast on Tuesday, do so if you can change it.
Okay, TikTok. Bill Cairns, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Listen, let's take you overseas now, because we have a lot of developments out of Israel and the Gaza Strip, with the Israeli military saying it is now close to dismantling the entire military system in northern Gaza, as it enters the third day now of Israeli forces storming inside not just the main hospital there, but now other ones as well, other hospitals too. Israel says its soldiers are finding tunnels and weapons and at least one car or truck in hospitals. They claim to have intelligence showing Hamas is operating inside. Hamas and doctors there deny this, with more parts of the Gaza Strip set to be targeted next, Israel says, including the south, where civilians have been told to get to for their own safety, as the Israeli military retaliates for that Hamas terror attack nearly 6 weeks ago now. Our team in the region talking exclusively with a veteran IDF intelligence officer who says the clock is ticking now to try to get some of the hostages out, the hostages kidnapped by Hamas now on October 7th. It comes as we're just learning the body of a second Israeli woman, a soldier named Noah Marciano, held hostage by Hamas, was found near Al-Shifa Hospital. Israel says she was 19 years old. The number of people killed inside Gaza now past 12,000, according to the media office of the Hamas-controlled government, as the UN puts out a new warning tonight that people in Gaza are at immediate risk of starvation. Food and water, they say, are practically non-existent there right now. We are now starting to see some new images from inside these hospitals at the center of the war, showing people who have been hurt, including children, getting rushed into the crowded ones that are still functioning. A doctor inside Al-Shifa, that hospital in Gaza, telling our team dozens of patients in the ICU are dying. Listen.
All ICU patients and ventilators have died, and we lost all of them because the oxygen pump doesn't work and there's no oxygen.
I want to bring in our reporters in the region. Raf Sanchez is live for us in Tel Aviv, but I want to start with Keir Simmons, who is in Jerusalem. So, Keir, talk to us about the ground operations now set to expand that Israel is planning inside Gaza. What are we finding out tonight?
Well, there are multiple aspects to it, Hallie. Let's just start with the question of what exactly there is and isn't in these hospitals. The Israeli Defense Force saying that it's continuing to search in a number of hospitals in northern Gaza, adamant that there are Hamas headquarters, particularly at Al-Shifa Hospital, saying tonight that they have more video of tunnels, but not releasing that video yet. So that campaign, if you like, around the hospitals, around justifying that siege of those hospitals, that continues. Meanwhile, in terms of the hostages, you know, Hallie, a week ago, or maybe even earlier this week, we would have been talking about maybe there's going to be a deal, the talks. It's gone very quiet, hasn't it? And what we're hearing from the Israeli Defense Forces, they are pushing on with their military campaign. I think what you're seeing is a twin track, talks on the one side, but hope still, particularly with the Israeli Defense Force, that they might actually be able to get to these hostages to rescue them. So there's that part of this puzzle, if you like. And then finally, just this question that they now say that they believe that they have done what they need to do from the Israeli perspective, if you like, in northern Gaza. And they're now looking to southern Gaza, and that opens up a whole new bunch of issues.
We'll talk about that whole new set of issues, Keir, specifically the humanitarian issues that are raised, because we know that the White House, for example, is already saying, listen, fuel trucks basically have to get in. They want to see more aid getting into Gaza. Their aid relief agencies are saying, listen, this is getting so much worse, and it was bad to begin with here.
That's right. I mean, you've heard this back and forth at the Rafah crossing just tonight on whether or not they're managing to get fuel through. You mentioned the World Health Organization saying that Gaza is on the verge of starvation, that many people don't have access to food and clean water. There is all of that. And I mentioned the plan by the Israeli Defense Force to head south. Of course, that's where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have fled from the north. You showed those pictures of that hospital, people being rushed in. That's in the south. Take a listen to what the Israeli Defense Force told me today about what their plans are, and let's talk about what it means. Take a listen.
So we're instructing people to get out of harm's way. Wherever we're announcing them to get out of harm's way, they need to move precisely to save lives. Hamas are not just operating in the north. Their hub of operations, their base of governance, obviously, is in the north. But they're continuing to launch rockets from the south. They're continuing to collude against us from the south.
Hallie, the Israeli Defense Force and the Israelis have been clear that they plan to try to dismantle the Hamas's capability throughout Gaza, and that is what they are clearly planning to do by moving to the south. But we've talked in the past about this historical precedent, these worries for the Palestinians of moving from the north. Now they're being told to move again. The question many are asking, where to?
Here's the question, Keir Simmons. Thank you very much. One of the things you heard Keir mention there in his reporting was this issue of these hostages. I want to go to Raf Sanchez for more on that. And Raf, you've got this exclusive reporting here in this conversation with a Shin Bet interrogator, telling you what they're learning as they're moving through Gaza, as this ground offensive continues to pick up the pace, essentially, especially as it relates to getting these hostages out.
Yeah, Hallie, the Shin Bet is Israel's leading counter-terror agency. It was their job to prevent the October 7th massacre from happening. They have acknowledged they failed, but in the chaotic days after the attack, they embarked on this high-stakes interrogation program of dozens of alleged Hamas commandos who they say were the tip of the spear on October 7th. We had a fascinating conversation earlier with a Shin Bet veteran. He retired last year, but he went back into service after October 7th to take part in these interrogations. I want to show you a little bit of our conversation. What's it like to sit like this with a man who you know massacred Israeli civilians?
Sometimes you feel that you want maybe to kill him with your bare hands, but you do nothing, okay? And sometimes even the opposite. You have to connect to some dots in his personality.
Now, Hallie, in terms of the hostages, he said that they did gain valuable information from interrogating these alleged Hamas fighters. He obviously wouldn't go into the detail, but he said one of the difficulties here is that Hamas knows that Israel has these men in captivity, and so you have Hamas commanders inside Gaza who are changing up their plans because they work on the assumption that their men sooner or later are going to confess to the Israelis. Hallie, some of the detainees we have seen in videos released by the Shin Bet have bruises on their faces. They have marks on their wrists. And I asked him, were any of these men tortured? He said they were captured during combat. In his words, it was not a polite capture. But he went on to insist that the Shin Bet does not torture. Israeli law does allow for physical force to be used against detainees in what's called a ticking bomb scenario, where lives are at risk if intelligence isn't got. So it was really an eye-opening conversation, Hallie.
It just sounds, I'm so glad you were able to bring us that reporting, Raf. One of the things that we talked about in the lead up to you and Keir here was the news tonight of the second Israeli woman who was a hostage who's been found dead in Gaza in the past 24 hours. On the show last night, we talked about another Israeli woman. Tell us more about what we're knowing, what we're learning and what we know about Noah here.
Yeah, so this is Noah Marciano. She was a 19-year-old Israeli soldier. She was captured on October 7th. Hamas told the world a couple of days ago that she was dead. They claimed that she died in an Israeli airstrike. They provided no evidence of that. NBC News has not been able to verify it. The Israeli military did confirm several days ago that she was dead. They said they hold Hamas completely responsible for her death, given that she was in captivity at the time. The Israeli military is saying that they found her body in a building adjacent to the Shifa hospital, which is the same location, they said, as they found that other woman, Yehudit Weiss, 2 days ago. Hallie.
Raf Sanchez, live for us in Tel Aviv. Raf, thank you. You can catch more of Raf's exclusive interview coming up on NBC Nightly News tonight, 6:30 Eastern, of course, with our Lester Holt. You can watch it anywhere you get your local NBC News station. I think you definitely want to tune in for that one. Listen, we've got some breaking news just into us here tonight. Some of the biggest companies in the world are now reportedly pulling their ads off of X after Elon Musk embraced an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory posted to the platform. We're talking about Lionsgate here. We're talking about IBM pulling its ads. The European Union is, too. They say it's partly because of a surge in hate speech on X, formerly known as Twitter. Even the White House is talking about this late today, publicly slamming Musk. I want to bring in Jake Ward, who's following all of this for us. Jake, talk about how big a deal this is, right? Because these are big name, big deal companies, and what happens next?
Well, these are big deal, big name companies, and we're all, part of the new CEO, former NBC Universal Ads chief Linda Yaccarino's, efforts to try to turn the public image of X, formerly known as Twitter, around. And that all seems to be blowing up today as IBM, referring to this as hate speech, says that it is going to pull its advertising alongside the European Commission. These are big names. And of course, it is a big black eye to the public image of X. I mean, Elon Musk has a history, as you know, of engaging with this subject. He has tweeted pictures of Hitler. He has put out very anti-Semitic seeming statements in the past, including one in which he said, "Who do you think rules the media? Hello," and then went on to say that he just meant people in power. But after this particular 6-word tweet in which he basically seemed to back up other anti-Semitic posts, all sorts of posts across X accounts that have been long associated with anti-Semitic remarks celebrated, saying that he is suddenly on their side with the JQ, the Jewish question, a long-time anti-Semitic code used across X and Twitter. And so it is just a real big black eye. And again, it is self-inflicted. To see that the CEO made this statement himself is what has so many people aghast here, Hallie.
And you mentioned this, Jake, but pull on this thread more. You talk about Linda Yaccarino here coming in to take over of the operations, right, is the head of X here, even as it partly, presumably, to bring up some ad sales. It's what she did. That was sort of her purview when she was at Comcast, NBC Universal. It just makes, it feels like it makes her job so much harder. Do we know anything, or do we have any reporting on her leadership tonight?
She is certainly saying at this hour, Hallie, she put out a post on X saying that, anti-Semitism has no place in the world. But even the White House seems to disagree with what she is saying. They came out with their own statement specifically calling out Elon Musk, calling his remarks abhorrent and contrary to core American values. And this, to further complicate things, even though they say it runs against our core values as Americans, you have to remember, Hallie, right? They have a long-standing relationship with Elon Musk as the head of SpaceX, which is the chief private carrier of goods into space for the United States. Elon Musk is the CEO of Starlink, the single largest constellation of communication satellites in the world. The United States is inextricably linked, in a sense, to Elon Musk at this time. And so to have them calling him out by name for his anti-Semitic remarks on his own platform, it's a big news day for us here, Hallie.
Jake Ward, live for us there in San Francisco. Thank you very much. Convicted killer Alex Murdaugh today striking a plea deal just days before what could have been the start of a bombshell financial crimes trial in South Carolina. Listen to this.
Understanding all that has been stated up to this point, how do you plead?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
That guilty plea comes as we're learning more tonight about the murder investigation. Remember, Murdaugh convicted of killing his wife and his son in what some called the South's trial of the century. Those investigators talking in an exclusive interview with our own Craig Melvin, set to air tonight on Dateline. Look at this.
What's not on video is I had to escort him out of the building, and he turned around and he says, "David, I understand why you have to ask these questions. I want to thank you for doing your job." And he shook my hand.
Were you surprised by that?
After I just accused him of killing his wife and son? Hell yeah.
Blaine Alexander is joining us now. There's a lot here, Blaine, in what has become obviously a newsy day as it relates to Alex Murdaugh. This guilty plea seemed to be unexpected. This, again, was for financial crimes. Even during his murder trial, he had been facing the prospect of facing a trial for a slew of these kinds of issues here, essentially, allegedly taking money from clients. How does this fit into the bigger picture of his legal issues?
Well, Hallie, this is so interesting because while we were all watching that Murdaugh murder trial, this was the other thing that we were watching very closely. Even though during that trial he wasn't on trial for his financial crimes, prosecutors argued that he essentially killed his wife and adult son to distract and gain sympathy because of those financial crimes. And so really to see him plead guilty in this, it certainly ties into that murder conviction. So here's what we're seeing. We know that prosecutors said that he defrauded nearly a dozen clients over the course of many years to the tunes of millions of dollars. And today he essentially stood up and said, yes, I did that. Now, his victims in this case put out a joint statement from their attorneys basically saying that they believe justice was served in this case, that they believe his guilty plea lets them now go forward and begin the process of grieving and healing, but also saying that they're glad that now the attention can be put back on the murder conviction, which he is appealing, Hallie.
It's also interesting to hear from the lead investigators in the murder trial piece of this, in the conviction previously here, talking with Craig ahead of this big Dateline episode airing tonight. Tell us more about that piece of it.
Incredible get for Craig, absolutely. So hearing from them, these are the people who really gathered all of this evidence, who have the kind of behind the scenes as to how all of this played out. Especially one of the things that so many people realize, or recognize rather, which was that almost smoking gun where he was caught on video, a video that was taken by his son moments before his death that put Alex Murdaugh at the scene of the crime, that put him at the kennels. So we hear Craig asking the investigators about that. The investigator said that he had to listen to it several times to be sure that he was actually hearing what he thought he was hearing. He was just in disbelief. Another investigator described it to Craig as a moment that blew the case wide open. So certainly that was a very large turning point in this case, and we'll hear much more about it tonight.
Blaine Alexander, thank you much. We sure will. That's because Craig's exclusive interview with the Murdaugh investigators airs tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on Dateline, right here on NBC. Coming up, a lot more to get to on this show, including new details after one of the most famous men in hip-hop was accused of rape and years of abuse. But police are now telling NBC News about a potential investigation into Sean Combs. Plus, which big NFL star is going to be out for the rest of the season? Coming up. A national sportscaster at the center of a firestorm tonight, now defending herself after she admitted on a podcast to making up some sideline reports. Listen to this.
I would make up the report sometimes because A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime, or it was too late. And I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report. So I was like, I'm just going to make this up because first of all, no coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on third down. We need to stop turning the ball
Pressure
over.
the quarterback.
We need, yeah, exactly. and do a better job of getting off the field. Like, they're not going to correct me on that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just make up the report.
That was Carissa Thompson, now the host of a Fox NFL pregame show and Amazon's Thursday Night Football broadcast today, saying, I'm quoting her here, I have never lied about anything or been unethical during my time as a broadcaster. She adds that she would use information that she learned and saw during the first half of the game if the coach she wanted to talk with couldn't or wouldn't offer up an interview. Thing is, this isn't the first time that this has come up. Listen to another clip from early last year of Thompson on with Aaron Andrews, Fox's star sideline reporter.
I was like, oh, coach, what adjustments are you going to make at halftime? He goes, that's a great perfume you're wearing. I was like, oh, I was like, this isn't going to work. I'm like, all right, I got to make up a report. I'm not kidding. I made up a report.
I've done that too for a coach that I didn't want to throw under the bus because he was telling me all the wrong stuff.
In a statement to NBC News, Andrews said her comments refer to taking information from coaches before the game and then using that info in a sideline halftime report. Amazon declined to comment. We haven't heard back from Fox Sports. We have heard a lot, however, from some colleagues of Thompson's in the sportscaster biz who are livid. They're crushed, honestly. ESPN's Molly McGrath saying that this kind of behavior leads to the loss of trust and credibility with coaches and players who are their main sources of information. CBS's Tracy Wolfson calling this absolutely not okay, not the norm, and upsetting on so many levels. NBC's Emily Aketa is following this one for us. So it feels like some of the anger from the sports media world is on two fronts here. There's the journalistic ethics piece, and then there's this issue of sideline reporters getting taken seriously, because Thompson makes it seem like this is just the status quo, and you have all these sideline reporters, many of them women, coming out and being like, this is not normal.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. And that has been the mission of so many people in the industry today, underscoring the fact they say that this is not normal. You talk about those layers of frustration. I think one of them really pointedly being that they feel that it's a step backward for women who have fought for so much, for so long, for space in this sports news industry. Here's more from a sideline reporter. Take a listen here.
Every time I explain what I do to people, I have to give this caveat that, oh, I'm more than a normal sideline reporter, because unfortunately, the perception is what it is. It just diminishes, again, the work that women in this industry do, not only on the field, but all of the work that we're doing to convince people that we're worthy of a space in this industry.
And some of the most prominent female figures in the industry really hammering and reacting to her comments, including Lisa Salters of Monday Night Football. She says, shocked, disappointed, disgusted. What we heard today called all sideline reporters into question. A former NFL Network host, Lindsay Rhodes, kind of posed what she should have done, saying she tells the producer he didn't stop, and they don't go to the sideline reporter for an update she doesn't have. Or she tells the audience that in her report, or she observes things herself and reports them without misleading anyone into thinking it came from someone it didn't. Now, again, Hallie, as you mentioned at the top, Thompson, as part of her apology today, says that she never falsely attributed information to a player or a coach. She's also underscoring her support and respect for sideline reporters, something some of her colleagues have expressed to me that they have felt.
This is also, interestingly, putting a spotlight on Amazon, right? Because they now, as people know who watch football, they now have football on Thursday nights on Amazon Prime. This is like a big deal for the Amazon push to break into the world of live sports. And now you have this broadcaster who is, of course, critical to their coverage here. At the center of this whole controversy now. We know that Amazon hasn't said anything, but is there any sense from the folks that you're talking to in the industry about the credibility question here for the business?
Yeah, the timing here is really interesting with Amazon's Thursday Night Football being so new. I think first you look at Carissa Thompson, and she's incredibly successful. She is very versatile. She's involved in entertainment news. She's got a podcast. She has an interior design business. She hosts two major national football shows, Fox and Amazon, both, again, not commenting tonight. So we'll see if there are any consequences that she has to face or that could be felt by the companies themselves. But at this point, that remains to be seen. I have seen some people encouraging others to consider more of the context and the fact that these comments were made something that she's referencing from more than 15 years ago. But it's really ruffled a lot of feathers. It's been a fiery storm and reaction in response to these comments that she's now made for a second time, Hallie.
Emily Aketa, thank you very much. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, an update to a story we told you about 24 hours ago on this show. TikTok now taking away hashtag letter to America from its search function after videos about Osama bin Laden's letter to America written after the 9/11 attacks went viral. He wrote it back in 2002, and it has regained some prominence in the wake of the Israel-Hamas war. Number 2, the head of OpenAI, Sam Altman, is stepping down in a surprise move. Its board of directors said he wasn't consistently candid in his communications and that they no longer have confidence in his ability to lead. The chief technology officer is going to become CEO of this company that is on the forefront, of course, of AI in the world of tech. Number 3, the NYPD says there is not an active investigation into Diddy, Sean Combs. There was some talk that a case might get opened after Cassie, his longtime former girlfriend, a singer herself, accused him in a lawsuit of rape and abuse. Combs' lawyer says he denies the allegations. Number 4, we've been telling you about all these updates on applesauce pouches, certain pouches making kids sick. The FDA now says it's screening imports of cinnamon for toxic lead contamination, saying specifically that cinnamon from a manufacturer in Ecuador is likely what's behind it. The FDA says do not eat this recalled cinnamon apple puree and applesauce. Number 5, some bad news for Bengals fan and people who like TikTok edits of Joe Burrow, because he is out for the rest of the season. Apparently tore a ligament in his wrist. The Bengals head coach says he's going to need surgery, so a lot of folks who are into the Bengals hoping he makes a quick recovery. When we come back, a pretty stunning rescue in Texas. How officials say a missing hiker survived on her own for more than a week. She has just been found alive. We've got the details in a sec. Plus, a police chase in Wisconsin ending up somewhere you may not expect, a porta potty. How'd that happen? NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Midwest Bureau, the National Transportation Safety Board is now investigating a Chicago train that crashed into some plow equipment. Dozens of people were hurt yesterday in one of the biggest Chicago Transit Authority crashes in decades. Out of our Western Bureau, remember that LA freeway that shut down because of that huge fire? The governor of California says it'll reopen Tuesday. That's like super fast, a lot faster than they originally thought. Even though officials say the fire was set intentionally, there have been no arrests. That investigation is still happening. And out of our Midwest Bureau, this Wisconsin police chase ended in a porta potty. How's that for a sentence that's maybe not on your bingo card today? Some people started driving a stolen car, police say. They drove it into oncoming traffic, crashed, and then when they were running from police, one of these people hid in a porta potty on a golf course. That's how they got him out of there. Taking him and somebody else into custody. Everybody involved in the crash is expected to be okay. So listen, in just the last hour, President Biden is leaving San Francisco, hoping he's bringing some big deals back with him to Washington after meeting today with Mexico's president and, of course, earlier this week, China's president. You've got President Biden trying to carve out a path to deal with 2 big issues, migrants at the southern border and the deadly fentanyl crisis here at home. President Biden's been taking heat from both sides, Republicans and some Democrats who say there just hasn't been enough support federally for what's happening at the southern border. A border where migrant encounters with law enforcement went up 87% between June and September of this year, more than 250,000 in September alone. Then there's fentanyl, which of course plays a role in the more than 70,000 opioid deaths in this country every year. It's an issue where both Mexico and China factor into manufacturing and distribution. NBC's Monica Alba has been with the president this week in San Francisco. She's there in the Bay Area for us tonight. So listen, the president came to this deal on the China side on fentanyl with Xi Jinping. When it comes to the Mexican leader, AMLO, as he's known, is not somebody who has always seen eye to eye with President Biden, particularly on the issue of immigration, on the issue of migrants at the border. So what is the assessment from the sources you're talking to, Monica, on how the president is heading back home now? Do they feel like he got something concrete on these deals?
Well, Hallie, it's interesting because given the president's meeting with President Xi earlier in the week, where they did spend a lot of time on fentanyl, that was seen as some real progress, and that really dovetailed with this other commitment that the U.S. has continued to secure from Mexico because it's related to the exact same supply chain. They say those precursor chemicals in China make their way to Mexico, where then they are combined with other drugs that make their way across the U.S. southern border, smuggled through Mexican cartels. So there are really different pieces of this puzzle that we're where they need all of the different geopolitical players to commit in order to try to do something about stemming the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. So the president today thanked President Lopez Obrador for his commitment to keep doing that. He said he was grateful that so far in this process, in the last couple of years, that Mexico has been already helpful in that arena and that there is more work to do. And yes, there have been plenty of tensions between these two leaders, these two countries in recent years, but you really wouldn't have known it from the meeting that we saw on display today. They were both very warm and friendly, and it's notable, Hallie, because there are big elections in Mexico next year, in the U.S., of course, as well. So it's possible that this is among the last times that President Biden and AMLO could be together in this setting, and they tried to kind of reflect that by praising each other as excellent partners in all of this. But it's not like there's something new that's coming out of this. They're both saying this is all about an ongoing dialogue with, of course, our key southern neighbor. Hallie.
You talk about the key elections in both countries next year. Obviously, when it comes to the border, when it comes to fentanyl policy issues, there is also a political overlay here, Monica, particularly heading into 2024.
And there's huge, huge amounts of attention on this for good reason, of course, Hallie. And it was really interesting. AMLO, in his opening comments, actually referenced building of walls, of course, alluding to former President Trump's policies when it came to migration. And he thanked President Biden for actually pursuing legal pathways into the United States. So a clear contrast there, but something that really does spotlight why that issue of border security and how President Biden is going to handle migration in the next 11 months or so is going to be a huge spotlight, one that the Mexican president congratulated him on, but that a lot of his critics have argued he hasn't handled as well as he should be. Hallie.
Monica Alba, thank you very much. Safe travels back home yourself. Appreciate it. So listen, we're just learning more about the suspect arraigned in only the last hour in connection to the death of a Jewish man who died after he fell and hit his head in a clash at dueling rallies earlier this month out west. A 50-year-old man is now being charged with involuntary manslaughter and battery in connection to the death of Paul Kessler, according to the sheriff's office there. Kessler had been at a pro-Israel rally earlier this month. He got into what's being called a physical altercation with a pro-Palestinian protester. The sheriff's office says Kessler died the next day. He was 69 years old. The district attorney in that area is not saying yet if there are any additional charges related to hate crimes that could come here. We'll keep an eye on that. The Biden administration tonight investigating 7 schools over alleged violations of the Civil Rights Act over anti-Semitic or anti-Arab incidents on their campuses since the October 7th terror attacks on Israel. Noah Pransky going one-on-one with the Secretary of Education today about what he plans to do to keep campuses safe and protect free speech.
High-tension war protests like these on the campus of Columbia University.
No more Jew hate!
And these at New York's Cooper Union, increasingly common at American universities. And now the feds are getting involved.
It's an expectation that our college campuses are safe for our students and that we're doing everything in our power to protect students and protect them for the most basic right, the right to learn on our school campuses.
U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona announcing investigations into 7 institutions, including Columbia, Cornell, and Penn, after receiving complaints about their response to anti-Semitic or Islamophobic incidents on campus.
Students need to feel safe. Families need to feel comfortable leaving their children on campus or in their schools, and we're not going to tolerate any form of anti-Semitism or Islamophobia on our school campuses.
The investigations come just a few days after the White House called for a fight against rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
We must, without equivocation, denounce anti-Semitism. We must also, without equivocation, denounce Islamophobia.
The main challenge for administrators, though, how to strike a balance between students' free speech and their safety.
We do want free speech on campuses. We want our students to be able to express themselves. And they need to be in an environment where it's okay to disagree with someone else. It crosses the line when it becomes unsafe.
Last month, Columbia's president promised to both defend the right to free speech, but that no political debate or division can justify anti-Semitism or any form of bigotry. Penn told NBC it's taking clear and comprehensive action to prevent, address, and respond to anti-Semitism, and it will vigilantly combat all forms of hate. While Cardona wouldn't speak to specifics of any individual investigation, he said the Department of Education is focused on providing administrators the tools they need to spot and stop harassment and discrimination. And he wants students to know their concerns are heard.
We have a responsibility to protect you and to make sure that the learning environment gives you the opportunity to be unapologetically who you are. You should not have to hide who you are, your background, your religious belief, because of fear of being attacked or harassed.
The agency pledged weekly updates on open investigations and ultimately may issue recommendations and new guidelines to the schools involved. Noah Pransky, NBC News.
I want to bring in Noah, who is joining us now. So, Noah, talk to us about these schools, what they said about being investigated, responsibility and accountability here for some of these incidents. Talk us through it.
So the secretary seems more concerned moving forward with compliance and keeping these campuses safe, avoiding violence, avoiding these really awful conflicts between, different groups and, of course, the hate crimes. He's focused more on giving schools guidance and what he can do to make sure that they know where the line is between free speech and, something that gets into dangerous territory. We also should note that we heard from 3 other of the universities and districts that we talked about. We got similar statements condemning hate from Wellesley College, Lafayette, and the Mays School District. So moving forward, I think a lot of schools across the country on alert, trying to strike that balance, Hallie, but it's very, very difficult with charged emotions.
Noah Pransky, thank you very much for that reporting and that interview, for bringing us here for us tonight. Thanks. Coming up, warnings tonight around something called valley fever, where it could spread, and why officials are blaming climate change for the increase in this potential flesh-eating fungus. Next. Scientists sounding the alarm tonight, predicting an explosion of infections caused by a flesh-eating fungus because of climate change. This infection is called valley fever. You get it by breathing in these fungal particles found in the dirt, mostly in the Southwest. The vast majority of cases here in this country, 97%, are reported here in the Southwest, Arizona, California. But researchers are now warning that a whole lot more of us could be vulnerable to this disease in the next couple decades, because valley fever and some of these other fungal infections are being seen in places where they normally aren't. And researchers say that could be because of a hotter and drier climate. Dr. Kavita Patel is joining us now. So, number one, yikes. Number two, how serious is this? How is it treated? What's the outcome for people who get valley fever?
Yeah, Hallie, it does sound like something out of science fiction, but it's something that we've known for a long time. Valley fever is caused by about 2 different species of what's called coccidiomycoses. Those are fungi, and those commonly live in the soil in warmer climates. And the way they get into humans, those spores from the fungi get released into the air, and they enter usually through the respiratory system, and they kind of breed from there. It starts in the lungs, and it looks, Hallie, just like the flu. The symptoms are incredibly common and overlap with a lot of things, nausea, vomiting, and joint pain, but it can lead to a lot more trouble if it goes untreated.
Were you surprised by the climate connection here, this new reporting out from some of these experts who say, like, yeah, there is a connection as the world essentially gets warmer?
No, not surprised at all. It's something that we've been talking about in medicine, honestly, for a decade, over a decade, thinking not just about the impact of what we're talking about today, valley fever, everything, Hallie, from species of animals that should not survive in certain parts of the country that are now carrying things like certain kind of poxes and viruses. So it's not just one thing that happens in climate change. It's a disruption that's incredibly global and has implications for everyone. And just because you might think, oh, if I don't live in that part of the country, it won't affect me. Not true. We can see this everywhere, including where mosquitoes are. There's a rise in mosquitoes, West Nile virus, Lyme disease, ticks, things that we have not seen, Hallie, in certain parts of the country, certain parts of the world, we are now seeing everywhere. And it's because of climate change.
I'm sorry, Dr. Patel, pull more on that thread, though, the mosquitoes, the ticks, because that is something that does, I think, concern a lot of people, especially as we head into the next year.
Yeah, so normally we do see mosquito or tick-borne illnesses in either certain parts of the country or during certain times of the year, usually during the summer seasons when we would tell people, go out and wear your mosquito spray, or we spray down kind of environments like still water because of the heat that can cause a rise in certain things, like if you'll remember West Nile virus. These are common viruses that are carried by these mosquitoes and then transmitted to humans, and again, can result in deaths, but a lot of severe disease that unfortunately, Hallie, the problem is that if you're not looking for it, if you're not trained in medicine to look for these diseases, it can go undetected, because if you don't live in tick country, you might not realize, wait a minute, I should look for Lyme disease. but that's exactly what we're seeing. That's just one example of many. I could go through every kind of different fungal infection, tick-borne illness, all of these things, and we're seeing them around the world in record numbers.
Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you very much for that reality check. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still to come, we are celebrating here tonight on this show because we are turning to a look back at some of the biggest moments on this show as we hit our 2-year anniversary. Next. Right as we were coming on the air, we got some pretty stunning news that a missing hiker has been found alive now after a week, more than a week, missing in Texas's Big Bend National Park. I want to bring in Kathy Park, who's got the latest for us tonight. So the last time she was seen, I think, was November 9th, right? And then she didn't end up checking into her campsite. What do we know about this rescue that just has gone down, apparently?
Yeah, so Hallie, happy to report that 25-year-old Christy Perry was found alive this morning around 9:30. That's when rescue crews found her alert. She was talking and pretty coherent for the most part. Actually got off the phone with the National Park Service, and we are told that she just had a backpack with her and a light jacket. And over the course of 8 days, the entire week that she was gone, it was quite stormy and foggy. And the National Park Service spokesperson was telling me, for a girl who weighs 100 pounds, 5'2", she's pretty tough. She didn't have a lot of food or even water in her backpack with her, so she was able to survive. And right now they haven't interviewed her thoroughly, but we do know that she is getting medical attention at this time. But once again, some good news to end the week. Just after a week-long search, she has been found alive.
It's incredible. How did they end up actually pinpointing where she was? Was it just a search that happened and they kind of stumbled upon her? Do we know?
Yeah, you know, still a lot of questions. So I want to backtrack a little bit because on November 8th, that is when she apparently picked up a rental vehicle in Midland, Texas, which is a couple hours away from Big Bend. And then they found her vehicle at the trailhead of a very popular trail. And then there was a reservation under her name, but she didn't show up that night. And then several days would go by and her family would alert authorities on the 15th. So on Wednesday of this week, because she didn't show up for work. So it sounds like she had this plan kind of in the works. But then when she didn't show up for work, that's when all the alarm bells started ringing. That's when families alerted authorities. And then there was this massive effort on the ground, also in the air for the past 2 days, essentially. And then, you know, I was told by the National Park Service, they were able to find her on this trail. And, you know, like I said, still a lot of questions as to what exactly happened over the last couple of days. But I was told, you know, the weather was pretty nasty at times. It was stormy. It was foggy. So, you know, there is a good possibility that she kind of got disoriented, but they were able to find her on that trail this morning.
Incredible. She was found alive, talking, coherent, as you say. Kathy Park, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate it. So listen, before we let you go here tonight, a point of personal privilege, because today we have something to celebrate on this show. Not just that it's Friday, but today, thanks to you, we are turning 2. We have been on the air 2 years officially as of tonight, if you can believe it. Expanding this year to 2 hours even. So clearly 2 is our lucky number. If you'll indulge us now, a little look back, just 2 minutes and change of the stories that we told and the people who helped us tell them this year. Hey, I'm Hallie, and we're starting with that breaking news. We are coming on the air tonight from the Spin Room. This is now the first time ever that a former president has been charged in connection to disrupting the transfer of power. What do you have a mugshot? He did. I'm about 8 seconds away from flipping my laptop to show you what this mugshot looks like. The rage, the shock, the desperation, the next steps to try and rescue hostages.
Don't do any harm to them. This is not right.
The first image we are seeing of this mom and her daughter.
We will get to the bottom of what happened just prior to the fire hitting Lahaina.
Powerful hurricane heading toward Mexico as we speak.
I had trouble falling asleep last night.
Let me say some words that we haven't said in 3 weeks. There is an actual Speaker of the House here. If you had to Google his name, you are not alone. Here's the breakdown.
But what do Bill Clinton's socks have to do with Donald Trump's indictment? Can a president pardon themselves for their own crimes?
To tonight's newsmaker now, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nick Clegg, Maz Jobrani, Jack Johnson, Joe Manganiello.
Being a nerd in the 80s was not what you wanted to be.
Is there going to be a nightmare version 2 come Memorial Day?
Well, let me start with the improvements that we've seen this year.
Tonight's original now.
The wild Mustang is the symbol of America.
Here in Idaho, it's the establishment that seems to be losing.
You couldn't have been surprised by the passion of your NCAA constituency compared to being a governor, were you? A little.
Time now to get the backstory.
It is not easy. You saw me. I have a long way to go.
I asked one 90-year-old woman what her favorite tea was, expecting her to say sage, and she goes, wine.
It's your boy Drake, and I'm feeling kind of fresh. Gotta give a shout out to the queen in the news. She's the best.
It is an entertainment story, sure. It is a pop culture story, yes. It may or may not be a love story, but more than anything, this is a business story. Patrick Mahomes is sharing the secret weapon, his lucky pair of red underwear. We do love a plump bear. He called a snake wrangler for help.
I draw the line after ice bath, but I'm gonna have to go back and be a guinea pig because there's nothing I won't do for you.
One of the reasons I love you is because of how you're actually interested in the weather.
It's nice to see you. Do you want to talk a little bit for a second? We're live. I'm with Hallie Jackson.
Hallie Jackson?
Yeah. Hi, Senator.
I mean, it's hard to get on with Hallie Jackson.
It's hard not to really want them to go all the way.
This is the beauty, folks, of having your own show. Like, you get to pull in people who cover the teams that you love. So, yay. Yay, indeed. So from me to you, thank you. Thank you for being here, for watching. From me to the team who actually gets this show on the air, another huge thank you. You see them all here. A moment to recognize all of our producers, our APs, our production assistants, our senior team, our tech team, our director, our studio crew here. Thank you, guys. Kathy and Yanni, my EP, my partner, Jill Belante, all of them who level up daily to curate our show here every night to help keep you all watching and listening in the loop. Where you want to be watching, how you want to be watching, when you want to be watching. That is the beauty of streaming. We love that you love it. We love making it. And we cannot believe it has been 2 years already. So here's to another 2 and then to many more after that. Thank you again. Have a fabulous weekend. We'll see you right back here Monday. More coverage picks up right now. We are coming on the air with new moves on this Friday night to try to eliminate a potential monster travel headache. The FAA saying late today it's taken immediate action to deal with the shortage of air traffic controllers as what could be a record number of people head for the airport this holiday season. More on what to expect as you get ready for your Thanksgiving trips. Plus, overseas Israel saying it's making progress in its military push into Gaza, but with new humanitarian warnings tonight. The UN saying the people in Gaza face the risk of starvation now. We'll take you live to the region. Plus, we're watching what could be an exodus tonight as some of the country's biggest companies hit the brakes on the platform formerly known as Twitter, while even the White House is slamming Elon Musk. Plus, a surprise move by convicted killer Alex Murdaugh back in court today to cut a deal in his financial crimes trial. Tonight, NBC News goes one-on-one with the investigators who helped put Murdaugh away from murder and the key evidence they say blew this case open. And an NFL Sideline reporter defending herself now after she admitted to making up some of the stuff she said on the air. A story that has everybody talking, her colleagues, our colleagues, her critics, and probably your group chats. That's later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and we're coming on the air tonight as the FAA says it's making new moves to fix the potentially dangerous air traffic controller shortage as what could be the biggest holiday travel season, the busiest one ever, kicks off tonight. You're looking live at Philly International Airport here because over the next 12 days, the TSA expects to screen 30 million passengers coast to coast as this Thanksgiving travel season begins. We're seeing some decent lines already at security checkpoints and at check-in. Listen to what some travelers are telling our teams.
Not fun, but you have to go through that. Part of tradition, the time to be with the family, and when you live far away, you always try to find time, to be with them.
You know the question that's top of mind for so many of these folks. How are the airlines going to perform, especially with concerns tonight about that air traffic controller shortage? They're down something like 2,500 people across the country, according to the Transportation Department, as we're hearing some new details tonight about the FAA's plan to get that number back up. That plan now coming just weeks after the NTSB chair told Congress all the close calls that we're seeing in the skies and on runways are, in her words, a clear warning sign. All this talk of holiday travel also affected by the weather, of course. And right now, a new storm hitting the West Coast this weekend is set to cause some major headaches into the weekend. Hate to break it to you. Meteorologist Bill Cairns will be the messenger on that piece of the story. But let me first bring in Tom Costello, who is following all things in the skies for us tonight. OK, so the FAA, Tom, says they are acting ASAP because you and I have been talking about this air traffic controller shortage for a while. Things seem to be coming to a head here. Walk us through it.
Bottom line here is that they've had 23 what they call serious close calls this year. They've had other close calls, but 23 serious close calls. And the head of the FAA says, listen, the system is safe, but it's stressed right now. And that's very, very concerning. So today, the FAA announced it's going to take some immediate actions to try to address this. Here's what they're going to do. Number one, they're going to take college and university grads who are in an ATC program and put them right into on-the-job training when they graduate. They're not going to wait for them to go to the academy. They're also going to try to create bigger academy classes as fast as possible, hire private as well as military controllers, people with experience, and then they're going to roll out simulators, tower simulators nationwide. The whole point is accelerate training because they're down so many staffers and so many of these controllers are working 10-day weeks, or rather 6-day weeks, 10-hour days. Take a listen to what the former head of the FAA said. He was the one who ran the study.
Staffing leads to a lot of overtime. A lot of overtime leads to a lot of fatigue. And that's why it's important to get at this underlying structural issue.
Yeah, this really underscores the problem here, right? It's not a one-fix thing. This is going to take time because this problem has been years in the making, 10 years in the making. The academy was shut down because of COVID, couldn't get back up and running fast enough, and they've got a problem with too many people retiring, not enough controllers on the job. But this is now, these are the steps they're going to take immediately over the next few months to try to address the shortage. May not help the problem this week going into Thanksgiving, but they're hoping, at least so far we've got clear skies, but clear skies may not stay with us into next week. Hallie?
It is good for you to temper expectations. I think Bill Cairns is going to have more on those perhaps not so clear skies next week. But talk to me about the holiday travel season. Here we are, Friday night. Some people are getting a jump start on their Thanksgiving plans. It seems like we are back to pre-pandemic times when it comes to what it looks like on the road, in the airports. Is this because prices are starting to drop? Is this because people are just ready to get back to what they like to do? Like, what's the deal?
On the roads, you've got gas prices down 40 cents from a year ago. In like 11 states, we have gas prices under $3 a gallon. Imagine that. That's incredible. But in the air, we are back to pre-pandemic levels, and we'll likely set a record for Thanksgiving air travel over the course of this Thanksgiving break. They're talking, as you mentioned, 30 million air travelers over the 12-day stretch. And this is really important because now we can have people work remotely in many cases. People are deciding, you know what, I'm going to leave early, work remotely on the front side, leave late on the comeback, return late, work on the back side remotely. So I stretch out an entire period in which I'm traveling, but working remotely. Well, what does that mean? First of all, it stretches out the Thanksgiving travel period, but also allows more people to travel. So all of that combined means, yes, we have a lot more people in the nation's airports. It's going to stretch out longer, but the busiest travel day will still be that Sunday on the rebound.
Tom Costello, we will wait for the rebound. We shall brace for it. Thank you. The question is, meteorologist Bill Cairns, who is joining us now, is it going to be a sloppy mess for that rebound travel or even before then? Talk us through it.
I've seen worse, so that we'll start there. Yeah, there's got to be some positive at it, and plus we're spreading people out a little bit, so hopefully that'll help. I don't think we're going to have any horrific weather that's going to strand people where they have to make that dreaded phone call. I can't make it. These storms are canceling my flights. I think we're going to get delays. Nothing significant will stop you from getting to your destination. So this is where we stand right now. Much of the country is pretty good. We have a storm system plaguing just the East Coast, on the West Coast, just barely moving in there into California, and then we have this area of rain that we've been tracking. So it's just rain. No ice, no snow. It's warm enough. It's all rain, but it's not an enjoyable drive on the New York State Thruway or the Pennsylvania Turnpike today. Pittsburgh, you're beginning to clear out. Later tonight, this will move through areas of New England. So as far as Saturday goes, that rain I just showed you will be exiting Boston pretty early. Then it will get windy and colder throughout the Great Lakes, but that's fine for travel. All of the Southeast, the South, the Midwest, no problems tomorrow at all. And then the storm in the West, that's where the bad weather is going to be. L.A. included with some rainy weather, which is always slow driving no matter what. And then by the time we get to Sunday, California clears out, and that storm moves into the Four Corner region. Much of the East Coast is just fine. A little bit of lake effect snow if you're going to be driving near Syracuse or Watertown. That's about it. Isolated strong storms late in the day. Keep an eye on that flying in and out of Oklahoma City, possibly out of Dallas. But here's the big problem. I froze this on Tuesday. This is when that storm system that's moving into the West Coast today, This gets all the way here through the Great Lakes. This green is all rain, maybe even a period of heavy rain Tuesday afternoon around the D.C. area, and then a little bit of snow even in northern New England with this. By the time we get to Wednesday, this clears on out. So it's at least fast moving, Hallie. That's why I think people may on Tuesday have some airport delays, but I don't think they're going to get too many cancellations.
Okay, well, that's decent news, Bill. We're going to hold you to it. Every word that you just said, we expect to happen
exactly
over the course of the next 5 days. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you. Thanks. Let's take you overseas now because there's a lot of action there as it relates to Israel and the Gaza Strip, because the Israeli military says it's now close to dismantling the entire military system in northern Gaza as it enters the third day of Israeli forces storming inside not just the main hospital there, but now other ones too. Israel says its soldiers are finding tunnels and weapons and at least a car or a truck in hospitals, claiming to have intelligence showing Hamas is operating inside. Hamas and doctors there deny this, with more parts of the Gaza Strip set to be targeted next, Israel says. That includes the south, where civilians have been asked to go for their own safety. The Israeli military retaliating for the Hamas terror attack nearly 6 weeks ago now. Our team in the region talking exclusively with a veteran IDF intelligence officer who says the clock is ticking to get some of the hostages out, the hostages who had been abducted by those Hamas terrorists. It comes as we're just learning that the body of a second Israeli woman, a soldier named Noah Marciano, held hostage by Hamas, was found near one of these hospitals, Al-Shifa. Israel says she was 19 years old. As you look what's happening inside Gaza now, too, the number of people killed there is now past 12,000, according to the media office of the Hamas-controlled government. The UN putting out a new warning now that people in Gaza are at immediate risk of starvation, saying food and water are practically non-existent there right now. We're starting to see some new images as we talk about these hospitals from inside, showing people who are hurt, including children, getting rushed inside these crowded places, at least the places, the hospitals that are still functioning. One doctor inside Al-Shifa telling our team dozens of patients in the ICU are dying. Listen to this conversation with our Aaron McLaughlin.
All ICU patients and ventilators have died, and we lost all of them because the oxygen pump doesn't work and there's no oxygen.
I want to bring in our reporters in the region, Raf Sanchez and Jay Gray, both in Tel Aviv. Jay, let me start with you here and talk through something that we just mentioned, the expanding ground operation that Israel is planning inside Gaza, what's happening inside these hospitals. What can you tell us based on your reporting from the region?
Look, the IDF chief of staff says that troops on the ground are moving into new regions in Gaza and pushing south. Some of those areas include fighting in dense urban areas at this point. The IDF saying that more and more Hamas is launching missiles from the south. So they're trying to target and identify and then eliminate those positions. And he's telling people to the south, and I'm quoting here, that they should stay out of harm's way. As for the hospitals, you just talked about it. Special forces with the IDF continue to search through a lot of those hospitals, say they are finding ammunition, weapons. What they haven't found to this point is the command and control centers that intelligence with both Israel and the U.S. has said is there. What the IDF has said is that that's just going to take some time.
What about some of this new satellite imagery, Jay, showing what seems to be big crowds of people that are trying to get to southern Gaza today? We know that relief agencies, and we've referenced it, have said, hey, conditions are already bad in Gaza. They're going to get so much worse. As we're taking a look now what these images are from the air, from those satellites.
Yeah, and really a lot of that, Hallie, is purely out of necessity. The fighting's been so intense in the north that a lot of people are taking advantage of some of these corridors set up by the IDF to move people out and to the south, though, as we just talked about, that's getting more dangerous as well. But a lot of people simply have nowhere to stay, nowhere to go, and so they are pushing to the south. We should also say that when it comes to the situation with aid, it is past the point of being dire. According to the UN, there's an immediate risk of starvation for many civilians in Gaza right now. They say, and I'm quoting again here, that food and water is practically non-existent now in the region. So a lot of people suffering, and they're trying to find some way to get more aid in.
Jay Gray, live for us there in Tel Aviv. Thank you so much. I want to get to our Raf Sanchez, who is also in the region now. Raf, you've got this exclusive reporting here in this conversation with a Shin Bet interrogator, telling you what they're learning as they're moving through Gaza, as this ground offensive continues to pick up the pace, essentially, especially as it relates to getting these hostages out.
Yeah, Hallie, the Shin Bet is Israel's leading counter-terror agency. It was their job to prevent the October 7th massacre from happening. They have acknowledged they failed, but in the chaotic days after the attack, they embarked on this high-stakes interrogation program of dozens of alleged Hamas commandos who they say were the tip of the spear on October 7th. We had a fascinating conversation earlier with a Shin Bet veteran. He retired last year, but he went back into service after October 7th to take part in these interrogations. I want to show you a little bit of our conversation. What's it like to sit like this with a man who you know massacred Israeli civilians?
Sometimes you feel that you want maybe to kill him with your bare hands, but you do nothing, okay? And sometimes even the opposite. You have to connect to some dots in his personality.
Now, Hallie, in terms of the hostages, he said that they did gain valuable information from interrogating these alleged Hamas fighters. He obviously wouldn't go into the detail, but he said one of the difficulties here is that Hamas knows that Israel has these men in captivity, and so you have Hamas commanders inside Gaza who are changing up their plans because they work on the assumption that their men sooner or later are going to confess to the Israelis. Hallie, some of the detainees we have seen in videos released by the Shin Bet have bruises on their faces, they have marks on their wrists, and I asked him, were any of these men tortured? He said they were captured during combat. In his words, it was not a polite capture, but he went on to insist that the Shin Bet does not torture. Israeli law does allow for physical force to be used against detainees in what's called a ticking bomb scenario, where lives are at risk if intelligence isn't got. So it was really an eye-opening conversation, Hallie.
It just sounds, I'm so glad you're able to bring us that reporting, Raf. One of the things that we talked about in the lead up to you and Keir here was the news tonight of the second Israeli woman who was a hostage who's been found dead in Gaza in the past 24 hours. On this show last night, we talked about another Israeli woman. Tell us more about what we're knowing, what we're learning and what we know about Noah here.
Yeah, so this is Noah Marciano. She was a 19-year-old Israeli soldier. She was captured on October 7th. Hamas told the world a couple of days ago that she was dead. They claimed that she died in an Israeli airstrike. They provided no evidence of that. NBC News has not been able to verify it. The Israeli military did confirm several days ago that she was dead. They said they hold Hamas completely responsible for her death, given that she was in captivity at the time. The Israeli military is saying that they found her body in a building adjacent to the Shifa hospital, which is the same location, they said, as they found that other woman, Yehudit Weiss, 2 days ago. Hallie.
Raf Sanchez, live for us in Tel Aviv. Raf, thank you. Some breaking news just into us now. Some of the biggest companies in the world starting to hit the brakes on ads on X, formerly known as Twitter. With NBC News in just the last couple of minutes confirming that Disney is now pausing spending on that platform, according to a source with direct knowledge, after Elon Musk embraced an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory posted on X. It is not just Disney. They may be the latest, but they are not alone. Lionsgate and IBM also pulling ads or pausing ads. So is the European Union. They say it's partly because of a surge in hate speech on X. Musk, in just the last few minutes, lots of news coming in on this tonight, posting to X that, I'm quoting here, clear calls for extreme violence are against our terms of service. This has gotten so much attention that it is even reaching the White House late today as they publicly slam Musk. I want to bring in Jake Ward, who's following all of this for us. Jake, talk about how big a deal this is, right? Because these are big name, big deal companies, and what happens next?
Well, these are big deal, big name companies, and we're all, part of the new CEO, former NBC Universal Ads chief Linda Yaccarino's, efforts to try to turn the public image of X, formerly known as Twitter, around. And that all seems to be blowing up today as IBM, referring to this as hate speech, says that it is going to pull its advertising alongside the European Commission. These are big names. And of course, it is a big black eye to the public image of X. I mean, you know, Elon Musk has a history, as you know, of engaging with this subject. He has tweeted pictures of Hitler. He has put out very anti-Semitic seeming statements in the past, including one in which he said, "Who do you think rules the media? Hello," and then went on to say that he just meant people in power. But after this particular 6-word tweet in which he basically seemed to back up other anti-Semitic posts, all sorts of posts across X accounts that have been long associated with anti-Semitic remarks celebrated, saying that he is something on their side with the JQ, the Jewish question, a long-time anti-Semitic code used across X and Twitter. And so it is just a real big black eye. And again, it is self-inflicted. To see that the CEO made this statement himself is what has so many people aghast here, Hallie.
And you mentioned this, Jake, but pull on this thread more. You talk about Linda Yaccarino here coming in to take over of the operations, right, is the head of X here, even as it partly, presumably, to bring up some ad sales. It's what she did. That was sort of her purview when she was at Comcast, NBC Universal. It just makes, it feels like it makes her job so much harder. Do we know anything, or do we have any reporting on her leadership tonight?
She is certainly saying at this hour, Hallie, you know, she put out a post on X saying that, you know, anti-Semitism has no place in the world. But even the White House seems to disagree with what she is saying. They came out with their own statement specifically calling out Elon Musk, calling his remarks abhorrent and contrary to core American values. And this, you know, to further complicate things, you know, even though they say it runs against our core values as Americans, you have to remember, Hallie, right, they have a long-standing relationship with Elon Musk as the head of SpaceX, which is the chief private carrier of goods into space for the United States. Elon Musk is the CEO of Starlink, the single largest constellation of communication satellites in the world. The United States is inextricably linked, in a sense, to Elon Musk at this time. And so to have them calling him out by name for his anti-Semitic remarks on his own platform, it's a big news day for us here, Hallie.
Jake Ward, live for us there in San Francisco. Thank you very much. Convicted killer Alex Murdaugh today striking a plea deal just days before what could have been the start of a bombshell financial crimes trial in South Carolina. Listen.
Understanding all that has been stated up to this point, how do you plead?
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
That guilty plea comes as we're learning more details tonight about the murder investigation previously from the investigators themselves. In an exclusive interview with our own Craig Melvin airing on Dateline a little bit later on tonight.
What's not on video is I had to escort him out of the building, and he turned around and he says, "David, I understand why you have to ask these questions. I want to thank you for doing your job." And he shook my hand.
Were you surprised by that?
After I just accused him of killing his wife and son? Hell yeah.
Blaine Alexander is joining us now. There's a lot here, Blaine, in what has become obviously a newsy day as it relates to Alex Murdaugh. This guilty plea seemed to be unexpected. This, again, was for financial crimes. Even during his murder trial, he had been facing the prospect of facing a trial for a slew of these kinds of issues here, essentially allegedly taking money from clients. How does this fit into the bigger picture of his legal issues?
Well, you know, Hallie, this is so interesting because while we were all watching that Murdaugh murder trial, this was the other thing that we were watching very closely. Even though during that trial he wasn't on trial for his financial crimes, prosecutors argued that he essentially killed his wife and adult son to distract and gain sympathy because of those financial crimes. And so really to see him plead guilty in this, it certainly ties into that murder conviction. So here's what we're seeing. We know that prosecutors said that he defrauded nearly a dozen clients over the course of many years to the tunes of millions of dollars. And today he essentially stood up and said, yes, I did that. Now, his victims in this case put out a joint statement from their attorneys basically saying that they believe justice was served in this case, that they believe his guilty plea lets them now go forward and begin the process of grieving and healing, but also saying that they're glad that now the attention can be put back on the murder conviction, which he is appealing, Hallie.
It's also interesting to hear from the lead investigators in the murder trial piece of this, in the conviction previously here, talking with Craig ahead of this big Dateline episode airing tonight. Tell us more about that piece of it.
Incredible get for Craig, absolutely. So hearing from them, these are the people who really gathered all of this evidence, who have the kind of behind the scenes as to how all of this played out, especially one of the things that so many people realize, or recognize rather, which was that almost smoking gun where he was caught on video, a son that was taken, or a video that was taken by his son moments before his death, that put Alex Murdaugh at the scene of the crime, that put him at the kennels. So we hear Craig asking the investigators about that. The investigator said that he had to listen to it several times to be sure that he was actually hearing what he thought he was hearing. He was just in disbelief. Another investigator described it to Craig as a moment that blew the case wide open. So certainly that was a very large turning point in this case, and we'll hear much more about it tonight.
Blaine, Alexander, thank you much. We sure will. That's because Craig's exclusive interview with the Murdaugh investigators airs tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on Dateline, right here on NBC. Coming up here on this show, barefoot workers and altered records. What safety experts say was happening at the factory behind those recalled eye drops. Plus, Amazon warning tonight some employees could have a harder time getting promoted. We'll explain why. A national sportscaster at the center of a firestorm tonight, now defending herself after she admitted on a podcast to making up certain sideline reports. Listen to this.
I would make up the report sometimes because A, the coach wouldn't come out at halftime, or it was too late. And I was like, I didn't want to screw up the report. So I was like, I'm just going to make this up because first of all, no coach is going to get mad if I say, hey, we need to stop hurting ourselves. We need to be better on third down. We need to stop turning the ball over.
The quarterback.
We need, yeah, exactly. and do a better job of getting off the field. Like, they're not going to correct me on that.
Right.
So I'm like, it's fine. I'll just make up the report.
That was Krista Thompson, now the host of a Fox NFL pregame show and Amazon's Thursday Night Football broadcast. Today, after all this fallout, after this landed everywhere, saying that, I'm quoting here, I have never lied about anything or been unethical during my time as a sports broadcaster, adding that she would use information that she learned and saw during the first half to create the report if a coach she wanted to talk with couldn't or wouldn't offer up an interview. Thing is, this is not the first time this has come up. Listen to another clip from early last year of Thompson on with Aaron Andrews, Fox's star sideline reporter.
I was like, oh, coach, what adjustments are you going to make at halftime? He goes, that's a great perfume you're wearing. I was like, oh, I was like, this isn't going to work. I'm like, all right, I got to make up a report. I'm not kidding. I made up a report.
I've done that too for a coach that I didn't want to throw under the bus because he was telling me all the wrong stuff.
Now, in a statement to NBC News, Andrews said her comments referred to taking information from coaches before the game and then using that information in a sideline halftime report. Amazon declined to comment. We have not heard back from Fox Sports. We have heard a lot, however, from some colleagues of Thompson's in the sportscaster biz who are livid. Honestly, they're crushed. Molly McGrath from ESPN says this behavior leads to the loss of trust and credibility. She says this is not normal or ethical. She says coaches and players trust us with sensitive info. You've got to take that seriously. CBS's Tracy Wolfson says this is absolutely not okay, not the norm, and upsetting on so many levels. NBC's Emily Aketa is following this one for us. And I feel like if there are people wondering, okay, wait a second. So, the stakes, it's a football game, whatever. But this is a big deal in the world of, sports broadcasting, but also in the business world as well. There's two issues here, right? It seems, based on some of the reaction. The journalistic ethics thing, and then, which is you don't make stuff up and then say it. That's just an ethos, right? And then there is a dynamic that relates to the fact that a lot of these sideline reporters are women. Women have not historically been the ones getting the most jobs in the sports reporting world. That tide has obviously started to turn, but that is kind of playing into this as well with some of these broadcasters saying this is a setback for them in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. And I think it's this multi-layered frustration that is turning so many heads in the industry. It's been trending on Twitter, or what's now referred to as X, and people just explaining that they're absolutely devastated. Of course, there's this angle of there's just nothing about journalism where it's okay to make something up. And then from the other side of things, in this field where women have had to fight for so long for just small space in this industry, for many people, especially on the sidelines, doing the sideline reporting, they feel like it's a step backwards. Here's what one sideline reporter for college football said. Take a listen.
Every time I explain what I do to people, I have to give this caveat that, I'm more than a normal sideline reporter, because unfortunately, the perception is what it is. it just diminishes, again, the work that women in this industry do, not only on the field, but all of the work that we're doing to convince people that we're worthy of a space in this industry.
And this firestorm of reaction, so many people reacting to these comments coming from some of the most prominent female figures in the industry. Lisa Salters, for instance, of Monday Night Football, saying shocked, disappointed, disgusted. What we heard today called all sideline reporters into question. We also heard a former NFL Network host, Lindsay Rhodes. She's kind of saying this is what she should have done. She tells the producer he didn't stop, and they don't go to the sideline reporter for an update she doesn't have, or she tells the audience that in her report, or she observes things herself and reports them without misleading anyone into thinking it came from someone that it didn't. Again, as you mentioned, Hallie Thompson had said in her apology, her statement that she had released today, that she has never falsely attributed something to the coaches or to players. I will say she also underscored that she has the utmost respect for sideline reporting, for the gig, for reporters, and that's something that I have heard from some of her colleagues, something that they say they feel.
We mentioned no comment here from Amazon at this point. Obviously, Thompson's part of their broadcast. Thursday Night Football, huge investment for them. Like, this was supposed to be a linchpin in their breakthrough into live sports here. Are we getting any indication that they're going to address this at all, Emily, or no?
Well, there's no sign of that at this point, and neither from Fox Sports, but she's also a figure on as well. Keep in mind, just this time last year, she was considered, I saw some reports consider her the MVP of Amazon's pregame show, and now she's the subject of the center of this fiery controversy, Hallie.
Emily Aketa, thank you very much for that reporting. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Caitlin Armstrong, sentenced today to 90 years in prison after she was found guilty of murdering pro cyclist Mo Wilson. Prosecutors say she killed Wilson in a jealous rage. Number 2, the head of OpenAI, that big AI company, Sam Altman, he is stepping down. Its board of directors say he wasn't consistently candid in his communications, saying they no longer had confidence in his ability to lead. The chief technology officer will become CEO instead. Number 3, the CDC fast-tracking the release of tens of thousands of doses of a new drug meant to protect babies from RSV. There's been a shortage of it, and that is a problem because RSV is the most common cause of hospitalization of babies in this country. It comes as we're heading into the holiday season with RSV and flu cases going up in parts of the country. Number 4, Amazon's raising the stakes for workers who don't want to go back to the office, saying if they don't come in, they may not get promoted. An Amazon spokesperson telling CNBC that employees who are considered for a promotion are expected to comply with company guidelines and policies. Number 5, bit of a bumpy start for F1 in Vegas this weekend. You know, that big race that's coming up there? First practice screeched to a halt just 10 minutes in, not even, after one driver ran over a water valve cover, messed up his Ferrari. Fans had to leave. The second practice ended up not wrapping up until something like 4 a.m. We'll see how the race goes. When we come back, a stunning rescue in Texas. How officials say a missing hiker survived on her own for more than a week. Plus, some scary scenes out of the Philippines after a really big earthquake. We'll show you more coming up in just a sec. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our international teams around the world have done it for you. Here's some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Finland, the country is shutting down 4 of its border crossings with Russia, accusing Moscow of funneling in a bunch of migrants. Finland claims Russian officials are retaliating because Finland joined NATO earlier this year, something the Kremlin denies. Out of the Philippines, a 6.7 magnitude earthquake shook things up today. Look at this. This is some video, pretty scary, of the ceiling of a mall there. See those pieces starting to collapse. Officials haven't confirmed any deaths at this point, but they are looking into the possibility of it. And out of India, we're now finding out that the facility that made those recalled eye drops we told you about yesterday seems to have some sanitation problems, according to FDA inspectors. They say the factory had workers walking around without shoes on, floors that were cracked. Apparently, some of these staffers would regularly change important test results. The company produced more than 24 eye drops. 24 brands, I should say, sold in the United States that have since been pulled. So listen, in just the last, maybe 90 minutes or so, not even, President Biden is heading out of San Francisco. He's on his way as we speak back home to Washington, hoping he's bringing some big deals back with him after meeting today with the Mexican president and then earlier this week, the Chinese leader. President Biden's trying to carve out a path to deal with 2 big things: migrants at the southern border and the deadly fentanyl crisis here. The president's been taking heat from both sides, Republicans and some Democrats, who say there hasn't been enough federal support for the situation at the southern border. a border where migrant encounters with law enforcement went up 87% between June and September of this year. Then there's fentanyl, which obviously plays a role in more than 70,000 opioid deaths every year. It's an issue where both Mexico and China factor into manufacturing and distribution. NBC's Monica Alba has been traveling with the president in San Francisco. So listen, the president came to this deal on the China side on fentanyl with Xi Jinping. When it comes to the Mexican leader, AMLO, as he's known, is not somebody who has always seen eye to eye with President Biden, particularly on the issue of immigration, on the issue of migrants at the border. So what is the assessment from the sources you're talking to, Monica, on how the president is heading back home now? Do they feel like he got something concrete on these deals?
Well, Hallie, it's interesting because given the president's meeting with President Xi earlier in the week, where they did spend a lot of time on fentanyl, that was seen as some real progress, and that really dovetailed with this other commitment that the U.S. has continued to secure from Mexico because it's related to the exact same supply chain. They say those precursor chemicals in China make their way to Mexico, where then they are combined with other drugs that make their way across the U.S. southern border, smuggled through Mexican cartels. So there are really different pieces of this puzzle that where they need all of the different geopolitical players to commit in order to try to do something about stemming the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. So the president today thanked President Lopez Obrador for his commitment to keep doing that. He said he was grateful that so far in this process, in the last couple of years, that Mexico has been already helpful in that arena and that there is more work to do. And yes, there have been plenty of tensions between these two leaders, these two countries in recent years, but you really wouldn't have known it from the meeting that we saw on display today. They were both very warm and friendly, and it's notable, Hallie, because there are big elections in Mexico next year, in the U.S., of course, as well. So it's possible that this is among the last times that President Biden and AMLO could be together in this setting, and they tried to kind of reflect that by praising each other as excellent partners in all of this. But it's not like there's something new that's coming out of this. They're both saying this is all about an ongoing dialogue with, of course, our key southern neighbor. Hallie.
You talk about the key elections in both countries next year. Obviously, when it comes to the border, when it comes to fentanyl policy issues, there is also a political overlay here, Monica, particularly heading into 2024.
And there's huge, huge amounts of attention on this for good reason, of course, Hallie. And it was really interesting. AMLO, in his opening comments, actually referenced building of walls, of course, alluding to former President Trump's policies when it came to migration. And he thanked President Biden for actually pursuing legal pathways into the United States. So a clear contrast there, but something that really does spotlight why that issue of border security and how President Biden is going to handle migration in the next 11 months or so is going to be a huge spotlight, one that the Mexican president congratulated him on, but that a lot of his critics have argued he hasn't handled as well as he should be. Hallie.
Monica Alba, thank you very much. Safe travels back home yourself. Appreciate it. So listen, we're just learning more about the suspect arraigned in only the last hour in connection to the death of a Jewish man who died after he fell and hit his head in a clash at dueling rallies earlier this month out west. A 50-year-old man is now being charged with involuntary manslaughter and battery in connection to the death of Paul Kessler, according to the sheriff's office there. Kessler had been at a pro-Israel rally earlier this month. He got into what's being called a physical altercation with a pro-Palestinian protester. The sheriff's office says Kessler died the next day. He was 69 years old. The district attorney in that area is not saying yet if there are any additional charges related to hate crimes that could come here. We'll keep an eye on that. The Biden administration tonight investigating 7 schools over alleged violations of the Civil Rights Act over anti-Semitic or anti-Arab incidents on their campuses since the October 7th terror attacks on Israel. Noah Pransky going one-on-one with the Secretary of Education today about what he plans to do to keep campuses safe and protect free speech.
High-tension war protests like these on the campus of Columbia University.
No more Jew hate!
And these at New York's Cooper Union.
No.
Increasingly common at American universities. And now the feds are getting involved.
It's an expectation that our college campuses are safe for our students and that we're doing everything in our power to protect students and protect them for the most basic right, the right to learn on our school campuses.
U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona announcing investigations into 7 institutions, including Columbia, Cornell, and Penn, after receiving complaints about their response to anti-Semitic or Islamophobic incidents on campus.
Students need to feel safe. Families need to feel comfortable leaving their children on campus. or in their schools, and we're not going to tolerate any form of anti-Semitism or Islamophobia on our school campuses.
The investigations come just a few days after the White House called for a fight against rising anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
We must, without equivocation, denounce anti-Semitism. We must also, without equivocation, denounce Islamophobia.
The main challenge for administrators, though, how to strike a balance between students' free speech and their safety.
We do want free speech on campuses. We want our students to be able to express themselves. And they need to be in an environment where it's okay to disagree with someone else. It crosses the line when it becomes unsafe.
Last month, Colombia's president promised to both defend the right to free speech, but that no political debate or division can justify anti-Semitism or any form of bigotry. Penn told NBC it's taking clear and comprehensive action to prevent, address, and respond to anti-Semitism, and it will vigilantly combat all forms of hate. While Cardona wouldn't speak to specifics of any individual investigation, he said the Department of Education is focused on providing administrators the tools they need to spot and stop harassment and discrimination. And he wants students to know their concerns are heard.
We have a responsibility to protect you and to make sure that the learning environment gives you the opportunity to be unapologetically who you are. You should not have to hide who you are, your background, your religious belief, because of fear of being attacked or harassed.
The agency pledged weekly updates on open investigations and ultimately may issue recommendations and new guidelines to the schools involved.
I want to bring in Noah, who is joining us now. So, Noah, talk to us about these schools, what they said about being investigated, responsibility and accountability here for some of these incidents. Talk us through it.
So the secretary seems more concerned moving forward with compliance and keeping these campuses safe, avoiding violence, avoiding these really awful conflicts between, different groups and, of course, the hate crimes. He's focused more on giving schools guidance and what he can do to make sure that they know where the line is between free speech and, something that gets into dangerous territory. We also should note that we heard from 3 other of the universities and districts that we talked about. We got similar statements condemning hate from Wellesley College, Lafayette, and the Mays School District. So moving forward, I think a lot of schools across the country on alert, trying to strike that balance, Hallie, but it's very, very difficult with charged emotions.
Noah Pransky, thank you very much for that reporting and that interview, for bringing us here for us tonight. Thanks. Coming up, warnings tonight around something called valley fever, where it could spread, and why officials are blaming climate change for the increase in this potential flesh-eating fungus. Next. Scientists sounding the alarm tonight, predicting an explosion of infections caused by a flesh-eating fungus because of climate change. This infection is called valley fever. You get it by breathing in these fungal particles found in the dirt, mostly in the Southwest. The vast majority of cases here in this country, 97%, are reported here in the Southwest, Arizona, California. But researchers are now warning that a whole lot more of us could be vulnerable to this disease in the next couple decades, because valley fever and some of these other fungal infections are being seen in places where they normally aren't. And researchers say that could be because of a hotter and drier climate. Dr. Kavita Patel is joining us now. So, number one, yikes. Number two, how serious is this? How is it treated? What's the outcome for people who get valley fever?
Yeah, Hallie, it does sound like something out of science fiction, but it's something that we've known for a long time. Valley fever is caused by about 2 different species of what's called coccidiomycoses. Those are fungi, and those commonly live in the soil in warmer climates. And the way they get into humans, those spores from the fungi get released into the air, and they enter usually through the respiratory system, and they kind of breed from there. It starts in the lungs, and it looks, Hallie, just like the flu. The symptoms are incredibly common and overlap with a lot of things, nausea, vomiting, and joint pain, but it can lead to a lot more trouble if it goes untreated.
Were you surprised by the climate connection here, this new reporting out from some of these experts who say, like, yeah, there is a connection as the world essentially gets warmer?
No, not surprised at all. It's something that we've been talking about in medicine, honestly, for a decade, over a decade, thinking not just about the impact of what we're talking about today, valley fever, everything, Hallie, from species of animals that should not survive in certain parts of the country that are now carrying things like certain kind of poxes and viruses. So it's not just one thing that happens in climate change. It's a disruption that's incredibly global and has implications for everyone. And just because you might think, oh, if I don't live in that part of the country, it won't affect me. Not true. We can see this everywhere, including where mosquitoes are. There's a rise in mosquitoes, West Nile virus, Lyme disease, ticks, things that we have not seen, Hallie, in certain parts of the country, certain parts of the world, we are now seeing everywhere. And it's because of climate change.
I'm sorry, Dr. Patel. Pull more on that thread, though, the mosquitoes, the ticks, because that is something that does, I think, concern a lot of people, especially as we head into the next year.
Yeah, so normally we do see mosquito or tick-borne illnesses in either certain parts of the country or during certain times of the year, usually during the summer seasons when we would tell people, go out and wear your mosquito spray, or we spray down kind of environments like still water because of the heat that can cause a rise in certain things. Like if you'll remember West Nile virus, these are common viruses that are carried by these mosquitoes and then transmitted to humans. And again, can result in deaths, but a lot of severe disease that unfortunately, Hallie, the problem is that if you're not looking for it, if you're not trained in medicine to look for these diseases, it can go undetected, because if you don't live in tick country, you might not realize, wait a minute, I should look for Lyme disease. But that's exactly what we're seeing. That's just one example of many. I could go through every kind of different fungal infection, tick-borne illness, all of these things, and we're seeing them around the world in record numbers.
Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you very much for that reality check. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still to come, we are celebrating here tonight on this show because we are turning to a look back at some of the biggest moments on this show as we hit our 2-year anniversary. Next. Right as we were coming on the air, we got some pretty stunning news that a missing hiker has been found alive now after a week, more than a week, missing in Texas's Big Bend National Park. I want to bring in Kathy Park, who's got the latest for us tonight. So the last time she was seen, I think, was November 9th, right? And then she didn't end up checking into her campsite. What do we know about this rescue that just has gone down, apparently?
Yeah, so Hallie, happy to report that 25-year-old Christy Perry was found alive this morning around 9:30. That's when rescue crews found her alert. She was talking and pretty coherent for the most part. I actually got off the phone with the National Park Service, and we are told that she just had a backpack with her and a light jacket. And over the course of 8 days, the entire week that she was gone, it was quite stormy and foggy. And the National Park Service spokesperson was telling me, for a girl who weighs 100 pounds, 5'2", she's pretty tough. She didn't have a lot of food or even water in her backpack with her, so she was able to survive. And right now they haven't interviewed her thoroughly, but we do know that she is getting medical attention at this time. But once again, some good news to end the week. Just after a week-long search, she has been found alive.
It's incredible. How did they end up actually pinpointing where she was? Was it just a search that happened and they kind of stumbled upon her? Do we know?
Yeah, still a lot of questions. So I want to backtrack a little bit, because on November 8th, that is when she apparently picked up a rental vehicle in Midland, Texas, which is a couple hours away from Big Bend. And then they found her vehicle at the trailhead of a very popular trail. And then there was a reservation under her name, but she didn't show up that night. And then several days would go by and her family would alert authorities on the 15th. So on Wednesday of this week, because she didn't show up for work. So it sounds like she had this plan kind of in the works. But then when she didn't show up for work, that's when all the alarm bells started ringing. That's when families alerted authorities. And then there was this massive effort on the ground, also in the air, for the past 2 days, essentially. And then, I was told by the National Park Service, they were able to find her on this trail. And, like I said, still a lot of questions as to what exactly happened over the last couple of days. But I was told, the weather was pretty nasty at times. It was stormy. It was foggy. So, there is a good possibility that she kind of got disoriented, but they were able to find her on that trail this morning.
Incredible. She was found alive, talking, coherent, as you say. Kathy Park, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate it. So listen, before we let you go here tonight, a point of personal privilege, because today we have something to celebrate on this show. Not just that it's Friday, but today, thanks to you, we are turning 2. We have been on the air 2 years officially as of tonight, if you can believe it, expanding this year to 2 hours even. So clearly 2 is our lucky number. If you'll indulge us now, a little look back, just 2 minutes and change, of the stories that we told and the people who helped us tell them this year. I'm Hallie, and we're starting with that breaking news. We are coming on the air tonight from the spin room. This is now the first time ever that a former president has been charged in connection to disrupting the transfer of power. What do you have a mugshot? He did. I'm about 8 seconds away from flipping my laptop to show you what this mugshot looks like. The rage, the shock, the desperation, the next steps to try and rescue hostages.
Don't do any harm to them. This is not right.
The first image we are seeing of this mom and her daughter.
We will get to the bottom of what happened just prior to the fire hitting Lahaina.
Powerful hurricane heading toward Mexico as we speak.
Hey, Joel, falling asleep last night.
Let me say some words that we haven't said in 3 weeks. There is an actual Speaker of the House here. If you had to Google his name, you are not alone. Here's the breakdown. But what do Bill Clinton's socks have to do with Donald Trump's indictment? Can a president pardon themselves for their own crimes? To tonight's newsmaker now. Vivek Ramaswamy, Nick Clegg, Maz Jobrani, Jack Johnson, Joe Manganiello.
Being a nerd in the 80s was not what you wanted to be.
Is there going to be a nightmare version 2 come Memorial Day?
Well, let me start with the improvements that we've seen this year.
Tonight's original now.
The wild Mustang is the symbol of America.
Here in Idaho, it's the establishment that seems to be losing.
You couldn't have been surprised by the passion of your NCAA constituency compared to being a governor, were you? A little.
Time now to get the backstory.
It is not easy. You saw me. I have a long way to go.
I asked one 90-year-old woman what her favorite tea was, expecting her to say sage, and she goes, wine.
It's your boy Drake, and I'm feeling kind of fresh. Gotta give a shout out to the queen in the news. She's the best.
It is an entertainment story, sure. It is a pop culture story, yes. It may or may not be a love story, but more than anything, this is a business story. Patrick Mahomes is sharing the secret weapon, his lucky pair of red underwear. We do love a plump bear. He called a snake wrangler for help.
I draw the line after ice bath, but I'm gonna have to go back and be a guinea pig because there's nothing I won't do for you.
One of the reasons I love you is because of how you actually interested in the weather.
It's nice to see you. Do you want to talk a little bit for a second? We're live with Hallie Jackson.
Hallie Jackson?
Hi, Senator.
I mean, it's hard to get on with Hallie Jackson.
It's hard not to really want them to go all the way.
This is the beauty, folks, of having your own show. Like, you get to pull in people who cover the teams that you love. So, yay. Yay, indeed. So from me to you, thank you. Thank you for being here, for watching. From me to the team who actually gets this show on the air, another huge thank you. You see them all here. A moment to recognize all of our producers, our APs, our production assistants, our senior team, our tech team, our director, our studio crew here. Thank you, guys. Kathy and Yanni, my EP, my partner, Joe Belante, all of them who level up daily to curate our show here every night to help keep you all watching and listening in the loop. Where you want to be watching, how you want to be watching, when you want to be watching. That is the beauty of streaming. We love that you love it. We love making it. And we cannot believe it has been 2 years already. So here's to another 2 and then to many more after that. Thank you again. Have a fabulous weekend. We'll see you right back here Monday. More coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.